Live from the apocalypse, screaming at janitors in hallways. That's my son. Always. This is State of the Game. I am your, effervescent, efficient, proficient host. And I'm joined every week by a co-host in ravenous pursuit of knowledge, the way Dylan Brooks is of his opponent's testicles.
It took a turn. I wasn't expecting that turn. But okay.
Oh shit!
So, and we have an amazing guest here because we are doing a scouting report on Raekwon. We have this mapped out. The first one we did was on Wayne, right? This one is on Ray. The third one we already have booked is West Coast. It's a West Coast MC. So,
shit!
We got it all. We got it all mapped out here. And the Raekwon, we had to bring on this. We have Tokyo Cigar, who has two careers now. He has a career as a soloist, killing the individual work, and a whole career remixing songs and remaking songs that has its own following. And his name sounds like a really cool anime.
Yes, back.
What up?
So this is going to be fun, man. I was thinking about it because you know what got me thinking about it? I was listening to Only Built for Cuban Links for this episode. I was 5 songs into it, Kay, and I realized I haven't thought about any of it. And I'll tell you what, I've heard this so much, it feels like the music is coming from in me. Like, it's just, like this is an album that rests within me somewhere because I've heard it so much. It's a part of me. And so is Immobilarity, the second album, which Tokyo remixed. With I gotta get the title. Desert Mountain
Crib.
Yeah.
Desert Mountain Crib, the Immobilarity remix.
Desert Mountain Crib, the Immobilarity remix. Absolutely. Yep. Good save. Okay. I was saying but yeah, that is an album that I always had these albums in those big disc holders. You know what I'm saying? Black.
What, the little fucking notebook looking joint? Yeah, hell yeah. Word.
Yep, the big notebook. I always had that, and I was always, Raekwon, I decided, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, I decided that if you're nuts for hip-hop, you probably have a personal 7, which means this isn't your GOAT MCs. I don't care about your GOAT MCs. There's too much politics in that. Your 7 are the people who got you started. Right?
Okay.
Your 7 are the people who raised you. You know what I mean? So, like, for me, like, that's Cube, that's Snoop, that's Slick Rick, that's Raekwon. He's in that 7. So I realized that doing this, like, oh shit, Ray's in my 7. Ray's like one of my parents in this thing.
Rap parents, yeah.
Yeah. Nah, what? Because like especially like with the fact that like you've seen them just kind of evolve this over the years and everything though, just like stylistically as well as just like, just like career wise and stuff though. It's like Ray is somebody to like, because I remember like he got the dopest rhyme of the month in the Source for like his verse off of Cream. And then like even like back then and stuff and everything though, that was still when like Ray always had the voice, he always had the aggression, the flow and everything though. But I always say this, yo. 1996, he fucked around and did the Do or Die remix with AZ. And I don't know what the fuck it had happened, but as soon as I heard him say, I won't play, Gamma Ray, Spray, Ray, he tried to pay, he threw $1,000 away. Yo, I planned the day to drive his land away. I was like, he just went like totally abstract and shit on everything. And then like once he got into that style, he just left Earth and shit, and he never came back down to Earth. And then like throughout all that and stuff, though, you've just like it's just amazing and shit though. Because the craziest thing about that though is just like, you know, and like we're gonna get into this in further detail, but my favorite album of all time, all fucking time, Only Built for Cuban Links. Greatest album of all time. You know what I'm saying? And like the thing about that though is just like even when because even though that's my favorite album of all time, my favorite version of Raekwon wasn't on that album and stuff though. Because you know what I mean? Because he had grown so much and shit though this over the years. And honestly speaking, like Wu-Tang as a whole, like they all did though. Because like, you know, because I always tell people and shit though, and I think I wrote about this on my Bandcamp and shit though. I'm just like, you know, like you take like Inspector Deck, like I smoke on the mic like smoking Joe Frazier, the Hellraiser. It's like it's a dope ass verse, but I bomb atomically. Socrates' philosophies, it's obviously a fucking growth for shit though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, word,
right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I thought that everybody in Wu-Tang, they kind of were at that stage, and Ray was kind of like one of the heaviest ones and stuff though. And I think that like it's kind of like they kind of went from in 36 Chambers, the one thing that they really had was a lot of aggression. Like, you know, it was and even with like Meth, like it was almost like Meth had like, hey, you get off my it was like a lot of aggression, but when Meth calmed down, it was when like you heard them on like extortion on the Mobb Deep shit, like I believe it with you, feel low extortion, you force in the hand that rocks the cradle caution, like you know what I mean? He calmed down, but the lyrics got way crazier and shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, even on Bring the Pain, you can hear that on Bring the Pain, right? His delivery on Bring the Pain is very calm and very like composed, right? But he was always growing with his hooks. He was always growing leaps and bounds. The last time we did this, Kay, we focused on kind of the timelines of Wheezy. I don't think we need to do that with Ray necessarily, just because Ray's has such an odd trajectory through his career. It's not linear, really. So, hey, talk to me about your relationship with Raekwon. How you felt about Raekwon, if he's been at all important for you.
I mean, I wasn't really familiar with his music. I had heard of the title of Only Built for Cuban Links, but I never listened to it. I mean, to be honest, the only track that before doing research for this show, the only track I think I've heard him on was there was a track on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He had
Gorgeous.
Yeah, he had the ending of Gorgeous.
And you must have heard him on Skew It in the Barbecue.
Oh yeah.
That's an Outkast song. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Been around.
So I mean, when diving into, and I mean, I listened to a lot of Raekwon the past week. I mean, it was revelatory, you know. Yeah,
that's awesome. So we got to talk, because my thought was to lead with characteristics, right? Raekwon is such an interesting individual that I would want to lead with characteristics, and I actually went to these digital streets and asked people how they feel about these characteristics. What the first one that I will highlight rolls into my first characteristic, right? Shout out to No God from Canada. No God said fashion imagery. Imagery, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of fashion imagery. You read Raekwon's book, it breaks down like fashion in different periods of his life. He was like, I was there. I was wearing this, and he'll break down his whole outfit. And I'm just like, man, really important. But that it goes to my point. My number one characteristic of Raekwon, if you were asking me, would be Raekwon is colors.
Yeah.
If you ever needed a rapper to make an example of synesthesia, of seeing colors when you rhyme, he's the rapper.
Yeah.
He said this. I've seen it in interviews, but when he said it, it just clicked in with what I already knew. Right? Okay, think about it this way: pull up some Google search on Raekwon album covers. Right?
Yeah.
So, Fly International Luxurious Art. That is gold. That's a gold color. You can't get away from gold. Gold is that entire experience of that cover. And that makes sense, right? It's a very Maybach Music influenced album. It's very opulent. It begins with one of the funniest skits of all time. The lady at the airport just telling him his passport has too many stamps on it, and him talking crazy shit over her. Can't even hear. Anyway, so Shaolin versus Wu-Tang.
Yeah. Red.
Angry red. You know?
Yeah.
That's the tone of that album, right?
Yeah.
The tone of that album is I'm fed up with standing in line. This is mine. Only built for Cuban links, purple tape, right? Purple. Like Raekwon is colors. Everything about his vision. If you pull up The Wild from 2017, it's deep greens, it's forest browns, it's organic, right?
Yeah.
So Raekwon is colors, and those colors are textures that matter to him. You know, you think of him like, you'll interview an actor, and the actor will say, "This whole character is about this wig. This wig is this character. I need this wig there, right?" Raekwon like that with his fashion sense, with colors, just in general, right?
Yeah.
And that's why he says shit that doesn't even make sense. Like, so, when the Wu-Tang album came out in like 92, right? And Raekwon is spinning, and he says, "The young youth." We were like, what? The what? Young youth? What? Like, it just.
Oh, shit.
But, like, Raekwon needed the colors, you know? He needed to shape that. Double down on that word. You know? It makes sense. It's part of hip hop history.
Yeah. I think like with the fashion sense and everything, with what he brought, like that was definitely because I remember like being a kid, and I remember saying to myself, like the three rappers that if I would rob, that I wish that I could rob for clothes.
Yep.
I wouldn't, because them dudes are crazy and shit. That would have been Ray, Ghost, and Kappa and shit and everything though, because like all of them, they always had that fly shit on and stuff though. And I think that even like one of Raekwon's like greatest moments and shit though was the Can't Be Also Simple video, like with the Snow Beach. Like I remember being a kid and seeing that shit, like Snow Beach. I didn't even know it was a polo, but I remember just being like, I want that shit. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't even know what the fuck a Snow Beach was, but rocking it and shit though, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I was just like, yo, it's like, you know what I mean? And with the fact that it became one of his more iconic moments and shit and everything though too, right? You know what I'm saying? In terms of just like, because even like the low lives and shit though, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like they even just started to say like they adopted the Snow Beach and started calling it the Raekwon. And the crazy thing is that it was such a legendary like fashion like moment that even Ralph Lauren would regularly re-release the Snow Beach and shit. You know what I'm saying? And like,
Awesome.
you know what I mean? And like, it's just like, and like him and Ghost, they always had that sort of like aspect to him though. But what you said too about the colors and stuff though, about because Raekwon, I think his shit was always based on like a lot of imagery with the way like he puts like stuff like together and stuff. And even like the thing about Raekwon that kind of sticks out is that like a lot of people they see Ghostface as being the more abstract one based off of Supreme Clientele.
Sure.
But Ray was always more abstract and shit though, right? You know what I'm saying? And the crazy thing about Ray and Ghost being abstract is that they're abstract because you know how sometimes motherfuckers are abstract just because they say weird shit though?
Yeah. They're trying to say weird shit. Yep.
You know what I mean? But I feel like Ray and Ghost, they're so abstract because their shit is so detailed. It's like they'll zoom in on one particular like real ass detail, but the thing about them is that they don't give you context. It's almost like somebody was talking because the crazy thing about Supreme Clientele and like with like Ray and shit though too, right? Is that if you listen to it it sounds abstract, but if you actually just look at the words individually, it's a very detailed shit. Like it was almost when I'm doing this rapper's like ZD facing me real TV. Ghost could have just been eating ZD and watching fucking real TV on TV. Then it's like, okay, I'm just gonna rap about like you know what I mean? But that sort of thing where is this like crush a high speed strawberry kiwi. There was probably a strawberry kiwi while I'm eating the ZD. It's almost like these moments that like it's almost I don't know if this is the right word, but it feels very lived in and shit. You know what I'm saying? That like it's on some like they're like it's almost like you're just going through like you know how motherfuckers say like if you're about to die, your life flashes before your eyes and shit. Though, you know what I'm saying? That just be the weirdest like little details and stuff. It's almost like that's how those motherfuckers rap.
Wow,
it's almost
that's
like you know, I was in like, cause even cause Supreme Clientele is a very detailed album and shit. So the same thing with Immobilarity, even with the lyrics just in itself, like February 10th day on the Wednesday, it's like Grimm's Day, Russian hats, rocking it the Benz way. That day we got guns on us, Jake's Warners playing Einstein lenses in Auroras. It's like it's very detailed shit. It's like, it was this time, it was on this day, I was with this guy, we were wearing this. It was like, you know what I mean? It's very, I was with, he'll say somebody's specific name and shit, though, you know what I'm saying? Or like, like you know what I mean? Or somebody gave somebody, they gave somebody an ice grill look and the person just reacted by stepping. It's like, he'll put, it's so hyper fucking detailed. Even on, you listen to a track like Malcolm on Supreme Clientele, it's like hey yo, I sham punch Mace in the face over some like that whole entire thing about like it's like Sammy eagerly rolled upon him, Toxie off the turkey with the joint on him, Flower look his man stood up in form, bitches hit the table, Ja King stripped off his cable, shots went off, like just hyper detailed shit, even down to the fact that young girls were trampled in the men's room, pulled pistol with Mace that then broke the handle. It's almost like it's hyper detailed stuff, but it's almost like a Tarantino or a Guy Ritchie movie where it's just the details, but then you see this all the hectic shit, but the camera's moving just all over the place and all that sort of stuff. I mean, you say?
But yeah, in a way, it kind of reminds me the magical realism aspect of how they create. Kind of reminds me of Atlanta a little bit, like where Ern is on the bus. And like, he's heartbroken and he's sitting there and then he looks up and there's a clown with a monkey on his shoulder sitting on the bus. And he's like, what is going on? Like, that's the push and pull of a Rae and Ghost song. Does that jive with your experience of listening to this, Kay?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, the imagery is incredibly vivid. And it's like you said, I like the Tarantino comparison, because Tarantino, he's known for like you said, he'll give you a scene, but he'll put little details in there that kind of like, punch it up and make it even more hyper realistic. Because it's not just like what happens; it's like the little details that happen in the background that makes really transports you there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's almost like it's almost like it engages all of your senses and shit though and anything. I mean, yeah.
And so he doesn't just tell you like the plot, but he gives you, like with Raekwon, he doesn't just tell you the plot, like move the story forward, but he's giving you like little details as well that's kind of filling in the picture of the scene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Word. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And there's my second characteristic here was that Raekwon lives by a code of ethics. This is why that no matter how violently opposed he is to RZA, the Wu will always be with him, right? Like, look at Shaolin versus Wu-Tang. RZA was publicly not into that. He was publicly like, boo, I don't like this idea. I don't want to do this. This is not good, right? And Rae did it anyway, and Meth is on it multiple times, You know, Ghost is on it. I think Inspector Deck is on it. I think Master Killer might be on it. There's a lot of Wu people on there. Ray will always have access to those people because he lives by a code of ethics that makes sense to him. So no matter how aggressive he is, no matter how grumpy he is, you can rely on him to be him because he lives by his code. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the second part of Cuban Links. There was a song, I don't even know the name of it. It's where he's hooking up with one of his friends' ex-girlfriends or something. And then the friend walks in and points a gun at him.
Oh, Jihad off of Cuban Links 2.
Which was, I mean, that was like the most, I mean, that was the most, I can't even begin to describe my reaction to that. But nonetheless, so essentially, like, he walks in, the friend walks in, pulls a gun on him. He gets the friend to put the gun down, smacks him, and then tells him that he forgives him now. Go get him a 40. Go get him a 40 at the corner store. And get himself one as well. And they'll let it be.
Yeah, Ghost on that. Yeah, Ghost on that shit though. Yeah, well, that shit was dope. Yeah.
And I really think, like, reading Raekwon's book, one of the cool things was it really set some history in motion where when Ghost and Ray went off to make Cuban Links, they kind of, Ghost was Ray's student, period. Right? Like, through the early parts. Like, Ray taught Ghost how to do his thing. You know? There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a shot. Like, that's just how this works. You know? And they worked out a code of ethics together. Like, they worked out what they wanted to be musically together. Yeah. Right? They worked out, what is our world like? What does it operate on? What do our beats sound like? Right? What are these stories about? You know? Like, where are we, you know, setting them? How are we pulling the rug out from under people? Right? And they kind of worked the ins and outs on that. And because they were able to do that and go off and make it kind of by themselves, they created a world that wasn't really RZA's world.
Yeah, I could sort of see that because, like, because somebody had made a good point about, like, Ray, about, well, a lot of the members of Wu-Tang and stuff, but it said, like, Wu-Tang was almost kind of split between people. Half the people, like Ray, Ghost, You God, all those dudes, like, and even to a certain extent, like Meth, they said, like, they were outside selling drugs, doing this, that, and the third and anything. Right. But then you had people who were more RZA, Jizza, people who were probably more inside, just because even like RZA was like, when he was doing that Cuban Links thing, like, he wasn't really going out and everything though too, right? I'm saying, and so like that's why he was doing all those albums like back to back. I think like RZA, like, it was almost like you needed that dynamic and shit though, because RZA provided that soundtrack for him, but then that and what they did with it lyrically, like, again, with what you said too about creating a world. Because Cuban Links was the sort of album that, like, to me, like, I always used to joke, because back in 95 and shit, though, I always used to joke that Cuban Links wasn't the best album of 95. Cuban Links was the best movie of 95. Because, you know what I mean? Because, like, you press play, and then I remember, because, okay, like, a little bit of context this shit, though. Like, when I got, like, Cuban Links, like, this is back when, like, because I was going to boarding school in, like, Ireland and stuff and everything, but I have family in London, so I was in London just when I bought it. So I was living in a whole different sort of like environment and shit though, compared to the environment that was made from. And I remember just like, you know, just pressing play and listening to it and shit though, right? And like, it was the definition of creating its own sort of world, because you heard just like the intro, right? You heard like, because it was such a world, like the thing, and like, another thing about Cuban Links that made it special was that if you listen to Cuban Links and then you've seen the movie The Killer by John Woo, that's what hits you even harder, because it's like, oh shit, because you're really seeing how RZA because even I listened to Cuban Links for over 20 years, and I didn't realize this until RZA in one interview, because I always knew about how he said like Raekwon and Ghostface represent both characters from like The Killer, but the fact he said that Blue Raspberry was on the album as much as she was because she represented the blind singer from The Killer and shit.
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean? And I'd listened to the album for over 20 years before I made that connection, because it kind of used to be on some like, yo, Blue Raspberry's all over this motherfucker and shit, you know what I'm saying? And it was the sort of thing that like, with the way like the album was just like put together, because I feel like because again, like you said, with your favorite albums of all time, that's always going to be a political thing. And I feel like certain albums are great because you have an album like Thriller by Michael Jackson, where it's just a collection of songs, but those collection of songs are just, it's fucking Thriller, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of people, they put like Nas, Illmatic as the greatest hip hop album of all time. To me, Cuban Links is above that, because to me, I felt like Illmatic it's the pinnacle of perfection of a collection of songs. But to me, Cuban Links was an experience. It was almost like you press play and then you listen to it. It's almost like you had to listen to it as a full body of work and stuff. And honestly, funny thing, who had the best verse on Cuban Links? Nas. So Nas still wins the shit though. But anyway, but the thing about that,
I mean, Verbal Intercourse has to be one of the best hip hop songs ever. Like Verbal Intercourse, when you have Nas, Ray, and was it Deck? Is Deck on there too?
Ghost.
Yeah. I mean, it's just there's just nothing. There's not a second on that isn't perfect. Like,
you know what I mean? Yeah,
but the most like a movie to me is like Criminology feels like a direct scene in a movie. Like that is exactly what that buildup leads into. It's perfect. Everything is synergy on that.
The Criminology instrumental, Criminology as a beat, because Criminology, the instrumental, right? It makes me feel like you're surrounded by people that you don't know and something bad is about to happen. That's what that makes me feel like and shit, you know what I mean? It's every time it comes on this shit though, with that loop and shit, you know what I mean? And like, and just the way that the album was put together, and then the slang, and because another thing too that kind of made it very kind of insular was a lot of it was the slang and shit though too. Like it was very like, I felt like sometimes hip hop kind of creates its own sort of world, and this is almost like a universal thing, because the same thing Snoop did with his world, the same thing that Wayne did. Like no matter where the region that it comes from, like there will be certain sort of hip hop that when it's very lived in, it's almost very insular. It's almost very like, you may not understand what this is about, and I don't give a fuck. I'm still gonna say it because I know what it means about. My man over here, he knows what it means about. Like
you know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's very real and shit though. Because another album that really did that was The War Report by like Capone Noriega. An album like was very this is Queen's shit. Like this is Queen's slang. Even like Noriega was calling guns K-Tone. It's almost like you didn't know what a K-Tone was, but in the context, you kind of put it together in your head. Because probably another group that really does that say really well is Camp Lo. To where it's like the way that they rap, it's almost on some like, you're gonna need to listen to this because we're talking in this shit that means that makes sense to us. So you can listen and you can enjoy it, but it's not for you. But if you listen close enough, you'll pick things up. And I feel like Cuban Links, it really kind of did that, because you had
I mean, the fact that it's not for you makes you want it even more.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's even in the title, only built for Cuban Links. It's like Raekwon's like, this is built for certain people and shit on anything. You know what I mean, word.
He wanted you to see those words in that order and go, what? Like, you know, that's what made it different. That's what makes things different from like we'll get to that point. I get that point is later. But to wrap up my point about the code of ethics, my RZA rant, okay? Like RZA was not a producer when he started 36 Chambers and did his first 5-year run. He was a director, right? Like, different. He didn't a producer works with an artist to get their best vision out, right?
Yeah.
RZA was placing them on the board like actors. You know, you play your part here, you play your part here, you plug in, and over time, his actors got bored. Like, they got bored just being pieces on it. Like, they didn't. It was very like Hitchcock. Hitchcock like despised actors.
Yeah,
Like that was his. He was just like,
and actresses as well.
to do this, and that's kind of how it felt like RZA was with his people. This is not taking away from the genius, right? The genius is there. The hooks were thick. He built some samples into the hooks. I mean, he was doing everything. So, he was incredible, but he was a director, right? And because Ray and Ghost escaped and built what this album meant themselves, and they came back, RZA was kind of relieved, like, oh God, I don't have to give you your album theme. Like, this is cool. You guys know what you're doing. I'll just give you what you need, right? But because of that, it set them apart in a way. It set them apart. When you think of Jizz's album, Liquid Swords, you think of it as a Wu-Tang classic. You think of it as a RZA classic.
Yeah.
Because Jizza didn't give you more classics. Like, he has great albums other that are beyond that. I really do like Beneath the Surface and the album with DJ Muggs and all these things. But he didn't hit without RZA. He didn't do that. So it's all attributed to RZA, whereas Ray and Ghost created their own world and developed it with RZA and without.
Yeah,
and so
true.
That set them on a different path.
No, 100% right. Because even because with Ghost, I think you've seen it. I think what Ray was going for on Immobilarity, Ghost perfected on like Supreme Clientele. Because I always used to break it down like this, because I always used to say like Iron Man is a classic Wu-Tang album, but Supreme Clientele is a classic hip-hop album and stuff though. Because like Wu-Tang, they were such their own thing that you almost have to judge it differently, because like their beats, their whole entire like universe was kind of like its own thing. But Supreme Clientele was a case about where Ghostface was reaching out to, like, Juju from the Beatnuts, Carlos Brody, just all these other producers, but he was still able to make something that, because he put his own personality into it, but he kept it so hip hop that, hell, even on the grand, like him and RZA's rapping over the fucking Funky Penguin, the da-da, boom, boom, boom. That's just some regular breakbeat shit, you know what I'm saying? I mean, just on some, this is like, we're just hip hop niggas, because it was almost like Iron Man is like we Wu-Tang niggas, but with Supreme Clientele is that we hip hop niggas and shit and everything, you know what I'm saying? And like it was like you seen that like the difference. And I thought that Ray was kind of going for that on the Immobilarity when like he did it his first time. But I think that was also the bad boy era and everything, you know what I'm saying? I mean, so like there was, so there was definitely there was definitely, because even on 100 rounds, once like right before he starts rhyming, you hear him say cats think I can't sell 5 million, like, you know what I mean? So it was almost like, oh, you're trying to sell records and shit, hit things, and then there was almost, because I've always felt like there was that whole time when people were just making what they were making just because they felt it, right? And the funny thing is, I feel like it's coming back now, but I remember like, because you remember the time like when you start to read like interviews and people would say that this is my song for the strip clubs, this is my song for the hood, this is my song for the radio. As soon as I started to read that, I'm like, oh, motherfuckers are thinking. You know what I'm saying? Me, what I mean? And I felt like that's kind of like the hole that Ray fell into on like Immobilarity. But the thing was that he was so good that lyrically he was still out of here. But because it was the sort of thing where Cuban Links, it kind of shows you like it's what makes a classic album, or Cuban Links or Infamous or Illmatic and stuff, though, right? Just all those different intangible things that come together to make a classic album and stuff, though. Because we've got tons of albums and shit, though, by people who are insanely nice, incredible with the lyrics, but all the elements just weren't there. Like, same thing about like Radcast or something like that, where the lyrical skills were just there, but the finished product just wouldn't have that whole overall sort of thing and shit, though, you know what I'm saying? And like with some people, it's like they need to get with the right producer just to bring that out. With some people, like they can do it on their own, and some people like they may just need guidance and stuff, though. Because like certain people, you may be able to put certain producers around like certain people, because it was almost the same way like Q-Tip, he wasn't a member of Mobb Deep, but they brought him in to like when they were doing the Infamous, the songs like, yo, Q-Tip, can you just da da da? And you're seeing the little things that Q-Tip was able just to bring to the table, just to guide them when they were doing the Infamous and shit. You know what I'm saying? And then they had that sort of overall effect and shit. I mean, so yeah, but that sort of thing and shit, though. But like, yeah, but
no,
I digress.
No, it's fair, and you know that I would say that's another notable thing here is that you bring up Razcab. The reason why Razkaz lyrically kills but doesn't care about his beats that much is because Razkaz is an underground rapper. Raekwon is not. Raekwon is a god in underground rap. His influence is felt to this day, but he's not an underground rapper.
Yeah.
You can pull up his last album, The Wild, and you can listen to that song with Lil Wayne on it. The Corner, that's a jam, dude. He's not. That can go. Like he's trying to hit for power. Like, not somebody who is very interested in becoming your little personal favorite rapper. Like he's trying to make jams. So, and that's something common with Method Man, really. Like doing that. So, but yeah, my next point to go into your point about Supreme Clientele and its relationship with Immobilarity. The third most important thing to know is that the relationship with Ghostface is unparalleled. No one had done what they did at that time, being on each other's albums as much as they were.
Yeah.
When Cuban Links came out and Ghost was on the cover, and then you flipped it over and Ghost was on every song.
Yeah.
No one did. They weren't an official group.
Yeah. True.
And then you got Ghost's album and RAE's all over.
Yeah.
And it was just an entirely different way of being.
Yeah. Yeah. I even love the fact.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I even love the fact that the first person you hear on Iron Man is Raekwon. You saying? Yeah.
Yep. So, Kay, when you were re-listening to this stuff, how did you feel about that relationship with Raekwon? How did you feel about when they rapped together?
I think they had a chemistry, and I think we've always talked about this. Like we've viewed, or I think I've mentioned, like I view rap collaborations almost as buddy cop comedies.
Yeah,
like the best rap duos are like a great buddy cop film.
Yep.
And with these two, it felt almost like like most buddy cop films, they're based like the tension is created by, you know, the fact that the two cops are like different. Like you think of Beverly Hills or Rush Hour. Yeah. Like that works because there's like contrast between the two. But these two, like, it's almost like they were twin. It was almost like a buddy cop and almost like a brotherly way, where these two are like raised in the same household. So they're very similar, but that there's slight differences and nuances in their delivery and their perspective that really, like, if you really pay attention, really helps you appreciate them even more when contrasting them with each other.
That's a good point. Good point. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because they definitely do blend well and stuff, though. But then, like, because as deep as Wu-Tang was as a group, the fact that Ray and Ghost, like they always had that bond and stuff and everything though too. So they had the similarities, but then if you look at them like stylistically, like Ghost is more like a shotgun and Raekwon's a silencer and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's
But
real.
you can tell like they're very close. They're close, but
yeah,
like the way that they deliver is different. Like you
Yeah.
said, and that's kind of where the tension is.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Not in terms of their content, but in terms of their delivery.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a good point, because they have the similarities and the differences, and then that makes them even more unique and shit though, and everything though too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yep. No, it's so yeah, the next point here is very interesting because my number 4 was not prolific but persistent. Raekwon is never going to flood you with content, but he's always around. Guest appearances on big albums, mixtapes, and he will drop an album that he's worked on for years. Like, he does that.
Yeah.
Like, Cuban Links 2 was crazy. Like, it was because he had been teasing it for like 8 years, 10 years, and nobody believed it was going to be good. Nobody believed it. You tell me you're working on the sequel to your classic album, and it's been 8 years. Don't worry about it. And we're like, this is going to be trash. This is going to suck. Like, because we had gotten a bunch of those. We had gotten a bunch of, like, here's the sequel to my classic, and it was, bad. But he had just made all these amazing songs and kept them in his pocket, I guess. And just kind of waited until it was perfect. And if you look at it, Jay Dilla has a beat on it, Marley Marl.
Multiple. Pete Rock, Negro, Eric Sermon, The Alchemist.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Yep. Scram Jones. Just like, he just kind of plucked from everywhere and did it. And it was, but the reason it was so incredible, Kay, because Cuban Links won. This is where we put it in perspective, right? Cuban Links won. You have Tokyo Cigar on this new project. I love the continuing conversation. Desert Mountain Crib, the Immobilarity remixes. I love the continuing conversation about Raekwon's legacy, because he says if Meth is up there with Biggie and Nas in 95, Ray is with them, right? So you have to, for people that were there and that are old, Raekwon was absolutely in that top strata, right? He had a platinum album that was innovative, that had, him trading verses with the best rappers in the world. He was in that conversation, right? When Jay-Z says they're arguing all day about who's the best, Jay-Z, Biggie, or Nas, they weren't. They were arguing about, like, Nas, Biggie, and Ray, or some or Prodigy, or, there was those conversations, but Jay was not on the radar. But it was,
I would like to remember that there was a time it was Nas, Jerry, and Buckshot being a conversation.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. No, it was different times. And but yeah, so he was burning hot. That's like, it's so long. Cuban Links is so long. It's such a long album. It's a life work, right? It's like, if nothing ever goes well again, I won't need to. I give you this, right? And that album was fresh to us for at least 2 or 3 years. We just kept listening, right? Like, and the problem was he followed it with back-to-back bad albums. right?
Yeah, oh god,
So
yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about immobilarity, which I love conceptually, right? We'll get to that later. I love the idea of it. But what Zilla Rocca said on Twitter, I think to you, Tokyo Cigar, it's the best raps with the worst beats,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a hip hop album. And I think that's fair. If you look at the production list on Immobilarity, it's sad. It's a sad list of names. And if
Mm.
you, I was thinking maybe you should have locked in with one producer, like Cube did when he left Dre, right? When he left
Bomb
and
Squad. Yeah. Bomb Squad. Yeah.
Bomb Squad, right? And I was like, but who would that be in '99? He doesn't fit with Manny Fresh. He doesn't fit with Swizz Beats. He doesn't fit with like Diddy's kind of hitmen.
Only
I don't.
producer in '99, like I would have nominated because they had chemistry, would have been Havoc from Mobb Deep.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
felt like yeah, yeah. 'Cause I felt like they had enough. Because the funny thing was that Raekwon was on every Mobb Deep album and shit though. Like was your Black Classic and stuff though and everything though. And I felt like you'd heard them over enough Havoc production that if they would have locked in, I felt that the Havoc would have been able to just to give him a sound, and I felt like they would have made something like this like impressive and shit though. And the fact that they were both on loud, I don't know why that didn't happen this shit though for real. Know what I mean? Right.
And Kay, it should be stated, it is very important historically that Raekwon is on the Infamous, right? The classic second album from Mobb Deep, because Mobb Deep hated everyone. The people they liked were people they knew in their neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Like there's videos of Prodigy hating every rapper you could imagine, right? He was a tense muscle of an individual, and so the fact that he was like, "Nah, Raekwon's dope, bring him in." That's something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's the choice right there. But he didn't do that. He didn't get another relationship, which I think Method Man we talked about. Method Man did get a chance because of his partnership with Redman, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when they did the Blackout, he was able to pull in Eric Sermon, who was down with Redman, and he was able to get that sound in. So he had a different mix going with that, so that was able to be good. But yeah, it was just not. Yeah, so he's not prolific, but he's persistent. By the way, Immobilarity is known as Raekwon's worst album. It is not his worst album. I disagree with that notion. The Lex Diamond story is significantly worse, in my opinion. And by the way, in Ray's opinion, Ray is disappointed in that album in that period of his life. And so that is a bad project. I would much rather listen to Immobilarity. It has
as a whole, like Immobilarity as a whole, it's like because Evan, like remember Double XL, they were doing a breakdown of like only both for Cuban links, like talk to everyone who was involved and stuff, and they talk to the RZA, and even RZA himself was like lyrically Immobilarity, Raekwon killed it and stuff and everything. No, but it was just a production, and I felt like again, like Ray was at because the thing that it was probably coming out of that because I think that Wu-Tang as a collective, they were the most powerful right around Wu-Tang forever. And it was a weird case about because I think like because you had the perfect sort of thing where when you said like RZA was a director and like he was placing everyone like chess pieces and shit and everything though. And then once that plan ended, everyone I think it was just like a perfect storm of events and shit though, because you know you had the flood, so RZA lost all those beats, and so he was starting over from scratch. But then I think that RZA is so forward thinking that it was on some like there's certain people like I don't know, like that's why I give Madlib so much respect because Madlib can go and do some next level jazz shit, but then he'll come right back and do some dirty raw gutter shit. I feel that RZA was somebody that once he kind of just goes off on a tangent, he doesn't want to go back. And I think that like you know, so all those kind of things is kind of just like lined up and everything though too. But then I think that like within that period and stuff though, I think that Wu Tang is like they were building off each other just like so much that they were at the height of their powers and shit. So Raekwon writing Immobilarity just around that time and stuff and everything. Because if it dropped in '99, he probably worked on it in like '98 and everything. You know what I'm saying? Started, you can say, so, and this is right after Wu-Tang. This was right after the second Wu album. So it's almost like they were all at that point where they were at their most powerful, but it was that an ironic thing because they were at their most powerful when RZA just kind of lost control of like all of them and maybe even lost kind of like his sound and shit though. And so I think it was kind of just like a weird thing because Raekwon, because during that time, because if you look at like because I think that it's safe to say like his rush period was probably Immobilarity, Lex Diamond's story, and it wasn't until he did like Links 2, right, that he got back on himself. But in between that whole entire run, he had the Vatican mixtapes, which has like some of his best rhymes like ever. There's even I was listening to the joint like today, the Young Black, like the Young Black, with him and Ghostface, the one that ended off the back and three, what you're doing like the back and forth.
Yep.
And they were talking so like they talk shit about this one dude who like used to have a parrot on his shoulder and he was about to get robbed and he shot the parrot off the shoulder and feathers all over the club and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, like they were just like they were going crazy with the rhymes and shit though, right? But it was just and like but that was during his like his low period and shit, you know what I'm saying? So it's almost like his albums weren't really knocking, but if you look through like his vaults and shit though, the mixtapes, the underground shit that was coming out, he was still on point. And I felt the funny thing was Nas kind of went through that period and shit though too, to where like it got to the point that like remember when you used to listen to like J Love mixtapes and shit though, then J Love was have those Nas like series of mixtapes, and you're like, why isn't this shit on the album? Why isn't this shit on the album? And like so it's almost like they'd have the songs, but it just wouldn't make the album though. I think like Raekwon was kind of like all up in that sauce as well because it's like you listen to all the soundtrack appearances, guest appearances, because I think like because Immobilarity, that was also around the time that he did like Skew It on the Barbie on the Outcast shit though, you know what I'm saying? Because that was around the time, you know what I'm saying? And like it was almost like, you know, all those different things, like, you know, just certain things were lining up, but other things weren't lining up. But I think that that's where the conflict just kind of came and shit, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and it's direct conflict with RZA, right? Because at that point, he doesn't want to be in that contract. He doesn't want to be part of RZA's tree of people, but he doesn't know how to get out, right? So he's stuck label-wise, right? But the thing about the mixtape era that people don't talk about is there were so many shitty mixtapes, okay? It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable how much garbage there was. How many people were just rhyming basic words over beats you heard on the radio every fucking day. And so when an established great rapper came to the mixtape game and gave it his all, we were like pumped. So that's why you hear people talk about Jadakiss as the champions. Right? like Jadakiss went through a lot of label issues where he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do, and D Block was on the shelf. But the champ is here was undeniable, man. His base was still there, and they would wait for him, and that's what happened with Ray. Ray released Heroin Only. He released all these mixtapes, and they were dope. And it was during that time, like 2000. Raekwon is guesting on The Heist with Rock Marciano and Busta's album, right? Yeah. And at that point, he's locking in with Busta and hanging out with Busta a lot, right? And Busta's trying to get him back in the game. Busta's a great project manager, like a great project manager. So Busta's like, nah, it's easy. You just put the pieces together. So he helped mixtape game and build his confidence back up. So by the time Cuban Links 2 comes out, that's a different Raekwon. That's that is the Raekwon that Midas the Beast talked to us about, right? Remember when you said like I really started becoming a Raekwon fan during that run. That's when he became MC, because that's when you go from Cuban Links 2 to you know, Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, Fly International, Luxurious Art. The discography from there is rock solid. Like, I put on the Wild the other day. That shit's awesome. I come back to it regularly. I like that a lot. So all of this projects post that '09 Cuban Links 2 to me are really good and really interesting. And it's because he was able to realign himself. He was able to fix what was going wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can say that. But yeah, that's pretty incredible. So this feeds into number 5, which is he always has a vision, right? In terms of theme and sonics, Ray always carves a new path for each project he's involved in. And that must have been apparent listening to this, Kay. Like you're always
yeah. I mean, when I think about Cuban Links, the Cuban Links Part 1 and Part 2, like Part 1 was very insulated to me. I think that's he used that word. And you know, as you said, like RZA, and I didn't look up any of the details before I listened to it, but I could tell like the production was handled by one person. Because it's very insulated. It's like you said, it's very New York. And then Cuban Links 2 was it sounded like Cuban Links, but it was less insulated. And there was more like you said, there was like you look at some of the guest features on there, and he's got Jadakiss on it. He's got Beanie Siegel, who I thought had a really beautiful verse on it. And so he opened up. So not only was he was still in this Cuban Links world, but he had expanded it and shown us a little bit more, like opened up the map in a lot of ways. And you could tell that was intentional. He was like, look, I want to keep this same, like the same, I guess you could say the same mood as Cuban Links, but I want to introduce more colors, and I want to expand the sound a little bit more.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, so it's like with Cuban Links 2 was almost like what Ghost did with like Supreme Clientele. It's still them.
And the 2 albums before it, like you could like, you know, you think of the Lex Diamond. I didn't listen to Lex Diamond, but I did listen to Immobilarity. And you could tell when for me, when an artist does like a departure, like does a 180 departure from the album that came before it, you could tell like there was something, there's either tension between, you know, what happened beforehand, or there was something that people were saying about the album beforehand that he didn't like and wanted to prove. So I think that the 2 albums between the Cuban Links were him trying to prove something. So, and I think Cuban Links, he just realized, he's like, okay, like I don't really have anything to prove. Let me just go back to creating something that I can be proud of.
So so I want to go back to what Tokyo said about, because I don't think that Cuban Links 2 is his Supreme Clientele. I think it's his Fish Scale, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because Ghost has kind of 3 periods of his discography, right? He has the Wu-Tang period with his first solo album, and then he goes, and then you get the Supreme Clientele, which is the successful reset that Immobilarity was trying to be, as you were saying. And then you have a period of Ghostface production, which kind of lines up with Doom's production, right?
Yeah.
Like the Operation Doomsday lines up with Supreme Clientele a little bit, and Doom and Ghostface kind of go on this run together. And then 06, Fish Scale is a different thing. It's bigger, it's nastier, it's brighter, it's alarm clock music. Yeah, I've got the Champ in my phone, you know, to wake up to.
Dope. That's dope. Hell yeah.
but Ray wanted a different sound as well, right? But he wanted it to still swing and still be soul based, but he wanted it to not. He wanted it to be big. So that was a big album, and it really set his wave in motion, the same wave. So
that's a really good point, and like but also with what like Kay said and stuff though, he made a really good point though too, because I think that like with what you said about Immobilarity, that you can tell like Ray had something to prove. I think that that's why one, there wasn't any RZA production, and two, Ghost wasn't on it and stuff though. I felt like he probably, because Cuban Links again, because like being up in the store, you picked up the Cuban Links, said guest starring Ghostface Killer. I'm like, what the fuck? And I turned to it because that really, you hadn't seen anything like that before, and it did set precedents and stuff and everything though. But I think he probably was also hearing people say like, okay, well, Cuban Links was dope because of Ghosts, because you know what I mean. Because some people could say that. Because the funny thing is, like, I always felt that, and this is kind of weird. I felt that lyrically and rhyming wise, Ghostface killed Only Built for Cuban Links, but Raekwon killed Iron Man, with the exception of probably All That I Got Is You.
Yeah.
The best rapper on Iron Man hands down was Raekwon. I mean, like it's like every time that Ray and Ghost rhymed together on Iron Man, like it wasn't even like Daytona 500 when Ray was like, say peace to Castle Rock, Mac Nas now just 3 stars. Just like Ray was going crazy with the pen on that shit though. Know what I mean? And like I felt like they had that dynamic and shit though, right? You know what I'm saying? And I felt that like probably they were hearing the whole thing like, okay, well, your album was only good because Ghostface was on it, this, that, and third, or your album was good because of River. So that probably did. Now I don't know, because I wasn't there, but
right.
That was a really good point that like you made, because I could have seen that being the reason and shit. Is it though? You know what I'm saying? I mean, word, I mean,
yeah, it's the Kobe ring without Shaq, right? It's like, now I'm here. And so that my number 6 characteristic, you're gonna love this. Raekwon is in the Hall of Fame for irrational confidence, right? He's anti-authority. He's prickly. He's hard-headed. He spent his whole career as Jason Terry beating LeBron in the finals, right? That's who he is. Irrational confidence guy. Like, there have been lots of times when people forgot that he was good or dismissed him, and Ray believes he's the best on the planet. Well, you know what I mean? If he got called to be on a posse track with Drake and Jay tomorrow, I don't think he'd be sweating. Like, I think he'd just be like, yeah. Good luck to them, you know?
Oh shit. Nah, but facts, because he really has because not to jump off to like the remix though, like I did, but the when I put together that remix album and stuff though, the theme that I wanted to have with the dudes Coop and Mike was because like Coop, he really broke down like, if you really looked at Raekwon's stats, the numbers are actually crazy and shit though. And like in terms of this because when he started to break it down, and then like you look at all the classics that he'd been on and shit though, from the Wu-Tang one though. But then also the fact that when Mobb Deep were on their run, he was on all their albums. When Outkast did your 5 Mike album and stuff, though, he was on that. And then like this whole entire period, and then like he had the Cuban Links too, and then that period that like we just spoke about and shit though, like where like you know what I mean, he had that like run. But then you'll look back again, the Kanye West, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Yeah.
And then even like recently, even as recent as last year, the fucking Black Thought and Danger Mouse album and shit though, he was on that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was almost the sort of thing where like it's almost like you look at like all these undeniable classics and shit though. Like it's like, yeah, there's like Ray's almost like, where's Waldo or fucking classic shit though? You know what I'm saying? Me word, know what I mean? There'll be a classic album and Ray's just like, oh shit, well there's Ray and shit and everything, know what I mean? And like it's almost like weird because it's almost like it's not even just like a regional thing though, because Outkast was like up in the South, And even like the fact that Outkast was like willing just to be on some like, nah, this guy. It's like, I mean, Outkast at that point, they could have gotten anyone this shit and everything, though. But then the fact that they were like, nah, this guy, you know what I'm saying? Me word, I mean? And I felt that like Ray is just like, you could put him anywhere with anybody and like it would make sense. Just at the end of the day. I mean, like I felt the only feature he probably didn't have is Biggie and Jay. And like I even like remember that there was the one fucking picture of when Jay-Z was working on that album, there was one picture that popped up with Jay-Z and Raekwon just up in the studio, but the track didn't get done because I think he said that Ghostface didn't get on the song or something, you know what I'm saying? And even like, you know, with Jay-Z being like, even with Jay-Z being like, no, this guy, you know what I mean? Where, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's crazy and shit though, you know what I mean? It's just like, but then what you said too about the irrational confidence, because he will show up on like all those tracks and everything though too. I mean, because I felt like, if you can show up on the track with Black Thought multiple times and shit, though, you know what I'm saying? It's also like, yeah, because motherfuckers don't even want to rap with Black Thought once and shit, though, know what I mean? Right. But him and Ray, they've got like a nice amount of collaborations and shit and everything. Now, I'm not going to lie. Black Thought killed him on the fucking Shaolin versus Wu-Tang. Like, I have a Wu-Tang bias, but I'm not going to lie. He killed him on Shaolin versus Wu-Tang. But I'm not going to lie. Ray, I think Ray got Black Thought on that track from last year. I mean, Ray kind of snapped on that shit, though, know what I mean? And I felt it like...
So I wanted to go back to Skew It on the Barbie because I think I want to put that in a framework. If you pull up, so Outkast's first album, Southern Playlistic Cadillac Music, is extraordinarily regional. It's extraordinarily Atlanta, right? It's very grounded. ATLiens is where they start to get surreal and interesting and thematic. Raekwon's guest feature in 1999 makes him the first non-Atlanta artist on an Outkast album, period. And like that was something. That was something that Ray coming out, and if you look at he's in the video, he's got like the sweater and like like he's looking stylish, right? And so it's Ray being like, no, these guys are fly. Like these, I'm with this. And it changed things, right? It changed things for them. It was, if you look at their discography, ATLiens was big, but Rosa Parks, and that's a different thing. Like that was a big
off that album. Yeah, 5 mics, yeah.
Yeah, so they really, he really changed their trajectory, I think, in a meaningful way. But it's one of the most important collaborations of the 90s. But yeah, to the next one I have for characteristics. Ooh, building on your point. So let's talk Biggie and Jay. Raekwon is more like Nas than Jay-Z. Period. Yeah. You listen to Verbal Intercourse. The thing that's so weird about it is Nas fits perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Nas had more in common with Raekwon because he was so drilled into vivid pictures, vivid moments. Wasn't trying to give you a guide. He wasn't trying, like, I think you talked about Pulp Fiction as Raekwon's movie, right? Jay's movie is Carlito's, right? Carlito's Way is a movie that's based on the narrative voice of Carlito in his head, taking you through the angles, right? That's Jay. Whereas, it's more about scenery, characters, surrealism, humor, like all of that mixed in the world of Raekwon, which very much mirrors Nas for these phases. So I think when you think of him, you're like, oh man, there's no Biggie Raekwon song. I don't think Raekwon thought of Biggie as someone that was like him. That was like, you know what I mean? He was on a different place over there.
You know what really speaks to me is that Raekwon has a song with Pimp C. And I mean Jay has a song with Pimp C on it, but it's more like UGK and Jay-Z. So I think Raekwon is, and I'm not saying that Jay-Z is threatened by Raekwon. That's not what I mean. But there is a tension when you're considered like the GOAT, quote unquote GOAT, by public opinion. You're considered the top dog. You're going to be threatened by, you know, other rappers' favorite rapper. And I think Raekwon, he seems, just going by, and like I haven't heard all his projects, but just going by the people that he worked with, you can tell that he was really respected by your favorite rappers. You know what I mean? And he was
Yeah.
your favorite rapper's favorite rapper.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
not like Raekwon was the hottest rapper on the planet when he jumped on Dark Twisted Fantasy.
No.
That's not where it was, but like it was important, and that makes sense. So, yeah, no. The other thing I have number 8 is an important one. He's not an industry guy, but a great talent scout. So he loves working with new cats. He has a song with Concept Jackson. Like he has songs with Troy Ave and Griselda. He did the intro on that Griselda project. But he's not Fat Joe in his ability to maneuver, right? Fat Joe can maneuver the industry, get what he wants, and set up projects. Raekwon doesn't have that level, but he can see talent in a way that is very good and very meaningful.
Yeah, he's also good at like networking and shit though, because even back then, because even when Wu-Tang was still sort of insular and shit though, he was like out there like linking up with people and shit though. Now, I mean, because remember that one picture in the source when they were up in the studio was Raekwon, Nas, and like Mobb Deep and shit though. Like I remember they were smoking weed and shit though, and like what it's like he just always knew how to maneuver and shit and everything though too. But you're definitely right though. Like Fat Joe is on a different level with it because I think like Fat Joe will like maneuver and then he'll play the game. Raekwon will maneuver, but he'll do it on his own terms. And like, he'll rock with everyone else and shit though, but it'll always still be you don't see him reaching and shit and everything, you understand me where, you know what I mean? And like it's like and like and I think that also just goes back to like your previous point, the fact that he's more like Nas than Jay-Z. And I felt like Jay-Z was kind of like, because I feel like Jay-Z, in that analogy, Jay-Z is like Fat Joe, to where Jay-Z will network, adapt and shit and everything, you know what I'm saying? But Raekwon is like Nas that like, you know what I mean? Like he really just gets like a lot of that respect just based on him holding his ground and being who like he is and shit and everything though too. And I think that kind of blends and I think that also just comes with just being just like very artistic and like kind of Raekwon and like Nas, you're kind of street dudes, but you're also very knowledge based and stuff and everything, and that comes with I think with the whole 5%er thing and shit and everything though, because even because I think that between that and the abstract thing, because one thing about Nas that I always say like to as far as what makes Nas different. I always go back, like remember, like more money, more murder, more homicide off AZ shit.
Yeah.
Like, I always say like the difference between Nas and AZ, because certain people are like on some, yo, AZ is just as good as Nas. No, AZ is amazing, brilliant. He is not fucking Nas. Because on that, and I always bring up that one song, because AZ is because you listen to Nas on More Money, More Murder, In a Mahogany, Black Scenery. Nas gave you cinema. Even down to like you could see everything, like Son of a Rose on the Graveyard, even down to he talked about how the dude had like a vulgar laugh and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. But AZ just rhymes like yo done, yo done. Now he had the flow, the delivery, the bounce, but he's talking about killing somebody, right?
Right.
Who's he killing? Can you picture the person that AZ was talking about killing in that song? It's like this nigga soft for sex, lost his spectacles off his neck. But can you picture that person? What does he look like? And I feel like that song always shows the difference because AZ is a super top notch, super incredible level lyricist that like is hard to match. Nas is fucking different, and I feel like Nas and Raekwon, they're cut from that same cloth and shit though, to where they do have that sort of thing, to where they think differently and shit though. Like they're street dudes like everyone else and shit though, but they're because my boy Tone and shit though. Now Tony's from Brooklyn and shit though. You know what I'm saying? Like he's been a wild street through his own entire life. Like was doing his own thing, and like Tone is really good at reading people and then just understanding the sort of thing. And like that's like there's certain people like it's always like every hood will have somebody who's like an AZ, that fly dude who is smart and gets a lot of money and is slick. Raekwon is almost like people like Raekwon and Ghostface here are one of one. They come from those same environments, but there's just something about them and something about the way that, and even the same thing with like Nas. You look at all the pantheon of people from like Queensbridge and shit, I'm saying Queensbridge is surrounded by like a lot of incredible spitters and shit though. You have Mega, Nature, like Mobb Deep.
You go on and on, yeah.
You know what I mean? But Nas, because he's even like Nas was the one dude like he had that song, The Kids in the PJs, when he was talking about being a kid, and he talked about his mom would tell him to come upstairs, and he talked about he had shit stained underwear.
Yeah.
Like that shit, I'm like, nobody else in Queensbridge is saying that. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, so if you think about it, like the Fat Joe and Jay are more alike than people think. Like, if you listen to Don Cartagena, which Fat Joe dropped in '98, it's very much his Reasonable Doubt. Like, it's not at Jay's skill level, but it's his version of Reasonable Doubt in the sense that it's all about his street life. It's all about him on the block and how that boiled over. And it's his like kind of written testament to that street life. It's a real interesting album. If you listen to Don Cartagena and then listen to Reasonable Doubt, you'll feel the linkage there, that there's a common lived in experience and common goal with the albums they have. Whereas if you just look at like Jay album titles versus Raekwon album titles, Raekwon doesn't have a normal album title. Like he doesn't. All of Jay's albums are more normal sounding, right? Yeah. Like The Blueprint, Life and Times of Sean Carter, Volume 1, 2, 3, right? Like Raekwon is Fly International Luxurious Art is
Immobilarity.
The Wild. It's we talked about Nas and it was what he has in common with Nas is that it's not as important to be a street dude as it is an author.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because Jay is just like more. Because Jay's the sort of dude where, even though I disagree with, and he's proven this wrong like a lot of times, Jay likes to put up the front that like he doesn't care about rap. I mean, and like Jay, because Jay's the sort of person that you will hear say, "I'm not a rapper. I'm a hustler that knows how to rap." People like Nas, they don't say that shit. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I mean?
No, never. These guys know that they are penning and authoring important texts, and that like lives in their mind. So let me see here. Okay, number 9, and I'm going to ask Kay to build on this. Soulful to the bone, singing along with samples. He's smoky, slow soul that you can feel in your gut. How does that hit for you, Kay? Is that something you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of I mean, because it's funny because I think I've complained to this about you. Like, I feel like today there's not a lot of modern day classics. Like you look at like the younger generation, particularly. Like, I guess you could say the kids in their mid-20s and lower. None of them have produced like a classic, what we would consider a classic album. And I looked at the age that, you know, Raekwon was making Cuban Links. He was about 24, 25. And I think what he's able to do that not a lot of kids his age are, and I call them kids, but a lot of people artists his age are able to do is he was able to create music that had like a pathos, or there was an emotionality to it, and I think that goes back to how you said that he has synesthesia.
Yep, synesthesia. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the way that he creates, he's able to create verses that have a lot of color and a lot of emotion to it.
Yep.
And a lot of pathos to it. And I think that kind of goes and ties in with what you were saying about his soul. There's a lot of soul, a lot of emotionality to his music, and that's dictated by like the way, by one, not only like his infliction, but also his relentlessness, and in terms of his delivery and the colors that he infuses his verses with.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's Tokyo Cigar. If I was to be clinical about my description of the production on Immobilarity, it would be those beats are like Chinese food in a dumpster in the summer in Texas, right? And so the reason they are that is because they rob him of the soul that's such a part of his of him. And that's what you were able to bring back in Desert Mountain Crib, was to bring back the soul and the knock in this. How important was that to you?
Oh yeah, that was everything and stuff though, because lyrically everything else was there. Like the ideas that he had, the flows and everything, and in some cases the hooks, and even with the singers that like he had and stuff, though, everything was there. And like I felt like with Raekwon and stuff though, by giving them like the right sort of beats and everything though, it was just a highlight like that and stuff though. Because when I was doing the remix and stuff though, my idea was just more just to showcase Ray, and like, but also just to kind of catch the emotion that the song had and everything though too, and then kind of bring that out though. Because even with going off of what like RZA was doing for him off of like Cuban Links, even when like it wasn't a soul sample, RZA was able just to give him beats that set the mood. Because even you had the beat on Cuban Links, you had the beat that's like Guillotine, which is just something that he obviously got from a Chinese flick and shit though. And saying the dun 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 dun, that's not a soul sound, that's not a soul loop like at all. But he took that and he had the drums to it, and then he put the jizza and deck this on it, and then that was because that was pretty much the only song that was about rhyming on the whole entire Cuban Links thing. But then you had a song like Heaven and Hell, where like he took the Slow Johnson loop, and then that was just a straight soul slowed down loop. But then the thing about both songs, that both songs they kind of set the tone of what the lyrics were going for. And so like with like Immobilarity, I felt like he was in such a place about skill being such a thing for him, but at the same time also have like this kind of opulence to it, with like a little bit of like with like, because there was definitely a lot more money talk on like Immobilarity, but it was still raw and it was still him. So like just giving him like that sound bed and shit though, just to give him that expressiveness was the number one thing. Because like it wasn't a case about how because even this one time I had the chance to talk to Fourth Disciple. So I was talking to him and like I was just trying to compliment him about the stuff that like him and RZA were giving like Wu-Tang during that run. And I got stuck because I couldn't really sum it up as to what made it great. But all I could say was that it was stuff that was fitting what the song needed and stuff up and everything though too. Because even RZA was really good with that in terms of just like, the beats on Takal, it wouldn't have fit on Liquid Swords. The beats on Dirty's album wouldn't have fit on Human Links. And like, because like it was almost like each beat just kind of had to carry its own sort of theme. So my main thing with like remixing this Immobilarity thing was to going off of what like Raekwon just like was doing, because he did have just like a lot of soulfulness and like, expressiveness there. That on the original one, it was on some like, you could tell that some of those beats were on some like this is the sound, this is the hot sound that's going on like right now. So if you rap on this, you're gonna sell records and stuff. But that's what a lot of those Immobilarity beats were, except for the Infinite Architects ones though, because Infinite Architects, I always loved them as a production crew, and I thought that they gave him really good beats on the album. But then the overall thing, like you could tell that it was on some like, oh, okay, trying to make a hit record and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with this, I was like, fuck making a hit record. Ray was spitting his ass off, so give him something that brings that out and stuff though. Because even specifically the track Friday, the one like remixed and shit though, where like he was spitting about this like Robin like that dude. That's why I wanted to give it a real sort of creepy, because that's why I had that really high pitched just like sort of sound with all these random drums just sputtering and then just hitting out, because I was kind of give you the feeling of being robbed and shit though. Like your mind is firing, your brain is firing up. There's all these chemicals, all kinds of shit's going on. There's this confusion, there's this tension and shit though. And Raekwon, he was really good at describing those sorts of things. So it's almost like each and every song that was on the Immobilarity, like he hit a certain sort of tone. So I was also like, okay, get the emotional feel of what he's talking about, then make the music just to fit that shit. Mm-hmm. I felt like that was what I'm saying. Work. I thought that that's what Immobilarity was kind of missing, because you listen to All That I Got Is You, like part 2 on the Immobilarity, they had the Lionel Richie loop and shit though, and like it's on some like but like if you really listen to what he was saying, it's like how much emotion, but talking about his mom. That's why I gave him that particular beat, because it had to bring out the emotion of what he was saying, because everything was already there, and then so that's was my main sort of focus with doing the joint.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and the interesting thing to follow, the thread to follow, is Immobilarity's terrible beats are representative of the beats of that time, the production of that time, right? Which had moved into these kind of Neptune, Swizz kind of artificial sounds, Casio keyboard kind of situations. And it's something like in 2001, Jay sees it and goes, oh, there's no soul samples. Yeah. I'm going to bring it back. And he does the blueprint. Right? Blueprint, so crazy for us, was hearing like all soul samples again and no more of that kind of Neptune sound. But no more like listening to a Timbaland beat and hearing a parakeet and a Cuisinart in the background and like not knowing what the hell's going on. Like it was like, oh, these are soul samples, man. That's wild. And man, if Ray had done that a few years earlier, it would have been dope. But anyway, number 10 is when we're talking about Wu and the 36 chambers. There's 3 pillars of Wu lyricism. We talk about early on, RZA did a lot of the work, but lyrically, it's Meth, Ray, and GZA who flushed out what the songs were about. Everybody else kind of followed suit. And if you look at, we get these schools of thought, right? Ka is the GZA school, no question about it, right? That kind of stoic, intellectual, street life diagnosis is very GZA. I mean, he came out on Pro Tools, right? Like, so that, makes sense. There's so many children of Raekwon. There's so many children of Raekwon and Ghost and that kind of dope stuff. And Method Man kind of brought that, pop rap versatility. Method Man was the guy who could spit on a hard track, and then do the remix to a pop song the next day. Like, and kill both, The versatility was there. So that's like the legacy there. I think he's probably the least copied of anybody, of any of those, the 3 pillars, because it's hard to do what Meth does. Like that's supernatural shit.
Well, I mean, he's just naturally charismatic. You have to,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most charismatic voices we've had in hip hop, I think.
Well said. Well said. So that is there. I would say, well, going back to the internet, Rhino Ignilifier on Twitter, I think he had my favorite response to the like what characteristics of Raekwon. He said he had 3 bullet points. One was slang innovator / proliferator, which we covered. Master of the internal rhyme scheme. And pursuer and appreciator of fly shit, which we definitely have covered. But the rhyme scheme, ooh,
yeah,
that's really important.
Yeah, the rhyme scheme is just like, I think you saw that heaviest again on Iron Man and stuff and everything though, because the way like it was like spitting his patterning and shit though, it's like like on Faster Blade, moving on these niggas like, yo, so far, you know how we go, shift them out. Like, but he was just like very choppy, but very fluid at the same time and shit and everything, you said. And like his patterns, the way that he'd block words together, and even sometimes like mispronounce words. I mean, just to make an overall point, he was a master of that shit though. I mean, it was ridiculous and shit though, for real, know what I mean?
I mean, that's what really stood out to me was the relentlessness and the use of space. I mean, like what kept coming to mind, he kind of reminded me of like, like a great NBA point guard, like a Tony Parker or a Chris Paul. Like they get in the lane and they can dribble the ball in these tight spaces. And that's kind of what Raekwon reminded me. Like there wasn't a lot of spaces in his like verses. He was perfecting like these rhyme schemes in very, very tight spaces. And just the relentlessness of it. And like he would go like a full verse without letting up, without relentlessness, and just dribbling in this tight spot, getting away from defenders, yet still keeping the ball on a string. Like it's astounding.
Yeah, really, yeah. Was like shit. I mean, there's even like some of the stuff like you think like because there was this one video on like on our YouTube was when Pete Rock was having the making of the Soul Survivor album, and that's the only footage. Well, one of the few times I've actually seen footage of Raekwon, like actually just a recording, and Raekwon was recording his verse for like the game, and it was kind of humanizing because you just hear the finished product and like it's on some like boom, but then you see him as he's doing the verse and everything though, right? And like he's all messing up the words and everything though too. I'm just like, oh, okay, this motherfucker is human. This shit, you see? But it feels like, you know what I mean? Because like that motherfucker, because like come here, the black champion gets down, fast down, let's grab the grab. It's like it's like the whole entire verse. It's like god damn. But then you see him making it. It's like, oh, okay. He had to catch it here and catch it here, then catch it here and everything though too. But then that's how intricate that like his flow is and stuff though. And like it's you combine that and stuff though. And I think like what RZA said about him in the Wu-Tang manual is one of my favorite of Ray because like RZA was like, Ray is a street dude, but he's an abstract person, and that's an incredible combination and shit though.
Yeah, and that is real.
Things, yeah, you know what I mean? Because it's almost like, and I think that you combine it too, like with the knowledge aspect and stuff, though, too. Again, with the 5% thing and stuff, though. I mean, with like a lot of the, even though he wasn't as in depth as somebody just like RZA, even on Cuban Links, calling songs like Knowledge God, having Papa Wu just close off the album and like all that stuff, though, and all these little things and stuff, though. It just. But I think that goes back with the whole thing with him being more like Nas, because Nas is you can definitely tell that Nas is a book reading motherfucker and shit though. I mean,
someone who values the literary aspect of the thing. And by the way, in terms of like, because this is a scouting report, talking negatives, I just want to say negatives are built into this, right? Because Raekwon is an irrational confidence guy. It was impossible to talk him out of bad plans early in his career. It was impossible to convince him that he would fail. And he had to fail. He had to fail on his own and feel it to be able to rebuild himself and get to where he is today. Right? When you're hard-headed, and I know this because I am hard-headed, you have to see the ground and feel it hit you to be able to be like, yeah, I won't do this again. I'm going to do this different. And so that's what happened with Lex Diamonds, and that's what, So someone like Jay is more durable, right? Jay is more of a listener. Jay is more of like someone who can take a committee of people and get the best out of it, right? And that's something that, like we said with Fat Joe, that's that other lane. Whereas Nas as well as Ray are the kind of people who they're going to go with their vision. If it's great, it's going to be great. If it's going to be, you owe me with Genuine.
Which is hot song. I mean, yeah, Jay and Fat Joe, like they're creating, thinking about the end user, the end customer in mind. So, and that's just something Raekwon just doesn't do,
Yeah, no, he's focused. So
yeah,
I was gonna say I don't have anything else. I think we covered it. I think we did it. I was gonna go to recommendation corner.
Absolutely.
Tokyo, do you have anything else you want to say before we go there? Any closing thoughts on Raekwon? Hello? Anybody there?
Yeah.
What's up? So any closing thoughts on Raekwon before we go to the recommendation card? Either of you? Okay.
No, I'm good.
What closing thoughts on Ray?
Yeah.
As an MC, I got this Ray. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, for the longest time, Ray and Ghost were like my top 1 and top 2 of all time, and for different reasons. Ghost. Anytime I used to hear Ghost used to make me just want to rhyme and step up the way that like I rhyme. But every time I used to hear Ray I used to joke like Ray had me writing on brown paper bags more than any fucking body, because anytime that I'd hear Ray, I would need to write. The only other person that used to hit me like that was probably Gore-Tex from Nonfiction. And like, okay. Yeah, like motherfuckers that when you just, every time I'd hear Ray or I'd hear Gore-Tex, it used to make me just want to write. Cause the way they used to put their words together, your flow, your concepts, and how they used to just generally just to describe shit. So I felt like Ray is just like a master of that. And like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like when everything else is in like the pocket, he is very fucking hard to beat. And you pair him with Ghostface, it's out of here and shit though. So Ray, and plus also the longevity and everything that, like, he's somebody that we may not realize how dope he is, but when you look at the stats, it's fucking ridiculous and shit name said, man. And so shout out to Ray all day, I mean? So that's it.
All day. So recommendation like corner, we're talking about, I wanted to shout out, there was an album a few years ago that I was in love with. Kay remembers. It was called Blimes and Gab. And it was Gifted Gab and Blimes, and it was awesome. Gifted Gab dropped a new album called G-Body Music, and it's dope. Gifted Gab, anybody follows her on social media, she's very funny, she's very sharp, she's very influenced by like Sugar Free and the kind of pimp rap that came out of that California wave. So, but I don't think she's had a lot of, she's in Seattle, that she's had a lot of chance to really flex that. And I think because Larry June has hit so hard, she's able to fully explore what she naturally wanted to do. So this album does have Sugar Free on it. And it's so fun. It's just a fun ass album. Yeah, it's like 28 minutes. It's beautiful. I dig it a lot, and it was fresh air, a breath of fresh air. The other one I wanted to recommend, Kay, we're doing Raekwon. We got to recommend some soul music here. Duran Jones from Duran Jones and the Indications has a solo album that's going to come out May 5th. It's called Wait Till I Get Over. And at this point, there's 3 listenable singles. And I am excited. They are good. Very good. Put that on your radar. Duran Jones Indications are, my favorite soul group running now. And produced by Duran Jones and Drake Ritter, Ben Loomsdale-Dane. So this is gonna be good shit. I'm gonna love it. So those are my recommendations. Tokyo, what are you listening to?
Okay, a lot of old shit, but if I had to recommend something to the people and stuff, though, is actually the album, like, and sticking in kind of what we were talking about with this whole thing about Raekwon, about being like a street dude that's kind of unique. We talked about this before we started to tape and stuff, though. Monumentality by Al Divino. Like,
oh yeah,
Monumentality by Al Divino. Like, that album, like, that was an album, like, that shit fucked my life up the first time I heard it and stuff and everything, though. Like, it was like, because in the terms of this, like, how, like, it reminded me of Wu-Tang in the sense about how, like, it was hip-hop, but it was like there was something else there. And there was like this whole sense about, especially the track with him and ST Nat called Ouija Dice, where like you're listening to the joint, and I don't even know if I can call that shit a beat, but the motherfuckers just rapping just over that shit, and I'm just like, oh, these motherfuckers, they don't give a fuck, and like this shit is raw. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been on a big ST Nac run. I've been on a big ST Nac thing now.
Crazy shit though. I mean, he's Tragic Allies and shit though too, but the stuff that like after him and Al Divino linked up, Al Divino, like, I would love to fuck around and have been a fly on the wall from when they started to work, because ST Nac in Tragic Allies and ST Nac post Al Divino, because he's always been a monster, but he even used to say like Al Divino was the one who taught him to rap. Just after all that shit though, and you can see the difference in shit though, know what I mean? Because I feel like they tapped into something that like certain other people have tapped into, but not to the level that like they have, to where it's just like they're making music that is it's very insular, it's very them, but at the same time the shit just bangs, and that's a very hard thing just to try and like balance out and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing that because the thing that especially like nowadays and stuff, so much stuff has been covered and so much ground has been covered for you to do something that kind of sticks out. It's hard as fuck, and they do that shit like effortlessly and shit. You know what I'm saying? And like so, definitely Monumentality by Al Divino, and then something else that I just kind of listen to like regularly and shit though. It's still Dummy by like Porter said. I listen to Dummy by Porter and shit though. Know what I mean? That's like an album that because just Dummy by Porter said. If you just like good like music, and in terms of just like seeing something that was founded in like hip hop, but also mixed in a lot of that European sort of vibe and shit though, but it was still very grimy and shit though, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, and just had a unique sort of sound and feel. Porter said like Dummy and shit though. So my recommendations are Porter said, Dummy, and Monumentality by ST Nac. Listen, if you want to hear music that kind of takes something that's familiar and mutates it to something different and shit though, know what I mean? Just to keep it which is what Raekwon does and shit though, know what I mean?
Yeah, no, the one that fucked me up from ST Nac, you should definitely hear some ST Nac. He does these vocal doubles where he will just like punch in and say ad lib.
He says ad lib. He said like, whoa.
And so it's crazy and brazen and ignorant, but like then he'll go off on a different tangent. He has an album called African Folk Music from the Diaspora.
From diaspora, yeah.
And it is insane.
Yeah. Matter of fact, both albums that he did with like Sadu Gold as well. Yeah, both of
Yeah,
those.
he has two with Saddle Gold. Yep. A deep discography of really interesting shit.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend diving into that. The Kay, what are you listening to? What are you bumping?
No new updates this week. This was Raekwon's week, so.
So the TV show wise, I don't know if you have Peacock, okay, but if you have Peacock access, this crazy show, Mrs. Davis, that they have,
Okay.
that shit is fucking nuts, dude. We watched the first episode. That shit is nuts.
That's the guy who did that. He did another famous one, didn't he? Like the director or something. Yeah. Okay, I've heard of that, Miss Davis.
It's real wild, man. Peacock is starting to do really interesting shit. They'll just throw wild shit up there, which I think that's what they should do, right? NBC is going to be doing NBC stuff. Might as well throw the weird shit on Peacock and see if it flies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been enjoying that.
Okay,
enjoying that. Yeah. Thank you, Tokyo, for being here. This has been awesome.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Thank you for having me and shit though. And can I just do a couple of quick plugs before I bounce?
Yeah, plug it.
Absolutely.
Desert Mountain Crib, Immobilarity remix.
In June, I got my solo album. It's called 26, The Maryland Era. That's an album, like, was a very personal album. It's like my official solo album as Tokyo Cigar, with not me being with August Fanon or Odd or Gel.
Yep.
Me, it's self-produced the whole entire way through. And like the whole theme is, I call it 26 because it's 26 years that I've been up in Maryland, this shit and everything. So everything about that album is like a true story. Everything was going on in Maryland. I had to change a couple of names just to not get sued and shit though. But it's in Maryland. People got Teddy Fairley. He's on it and shit though and everything though too. And then
Teddy Fairley.
so I've got that, but then also like right now, anyone who's interested in like, you know, kind of noir movies and shit like that though, go up to type in Tokyo Cigar and Grim, and it's I've got this thing. It's called Grim, a philosophical murder mystery. It's a 33-minute black and white noir detective inspired film and stuff though. My homegirl Jeanette, she's like an actress. She's like Mexican and shit though. She plays this fucking crazy ill serial killer and shit though, and like me and my peoples are playing cops who are kind of like on their trail. So it's half of the movie is a silent film where I did all the music. It's more me doing jazz and then just soundtrack music and shit. So like, you know, so type in Tokyo Cigar, Grim. It's on YouTube, 33 minutes. Everyone can just watch it. And then we've also got the soundtrack out though. So peep that out there. And then in June, I've got my solo album, 26, The Maryland Era. Then right now, Got Desert Mountain Crib with the Raekwon, the Immobilarity remixes. So that's about it. I mean, shit.
Always working.
All day. Tokyo Cigar's working. I mean,
shout out to you, and shout out to you for your place in this game. The mentorship of Iceberg Theory. Like you are an important part of this world, and you do it very sincerely, right? You're as excited for other people's great shit as you are your great shit. And so that's, you're community minded in that way that I appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would build on that by saying, subscribe to the Patreon and pay me money. If you're listening, subscribe to the Patreon, pay us money monthly. We got a new subscriber. We're very excited about that. So, it just allows us to do more. We got some good shit coming up, so be aware. Oh, should I announce, Kate, who's going to be on our mid-year? Should we
do? What's your heart telling you, man?
Let's let it be known. So, mid-year albums of the year, like so far, we're gonna have C Money Burns on there, and C Money Burns is a producer, but he also is elite mixing and mastering. And has worked on, Armand Hammer stuff, has worked on Andrew's albums and Jesse the Tree and Zilla's albums, and Little Robert Hutton, Curly Castro, mixed and mastered. So just really important with Brzezowski and everything and producing there. So it's going to be a different perspective and a different ear in terms of, what he's listening for. It's going to be real dope.
Nice. Good. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me and shit, though. And plus, respect on the last one with a Lil Wayne and shit, though. Y'all killed that too.
Yeah, go back and check it, everybody. Thank you for locking in with us. We appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and comment. Shout out to Dylan Brooks, Testicle Hunter.
What will tomorrow